Mark Thompson seemed like the perfect husband. Emily trusted him with her life, and Sarah, the devoted nanny, cared for their daughter with love, until secrets, lies, and betrayal tore their world apart in a deadly twist no one saw coming. The quiet suburban neighborhood was the kind of place where everyone knew each other's names, where children played freely in the streets, and families lived under the comforting glow of familiarity. The Thompson house, a modest two-story with cream-colored walls and a well-kept garden, fit perfectly into this picture. On the surface, Mark and Emily Thompson seemed like the ideal couple. Mark was a tall, confident man who worked as a senior manager at a prominent company, often traveling for business but always returning with the same warm smile. Emily was graceful and attentive, the loving mother of their 2-year-old daughter, Lily. Life for the Thompsons appeared flawless until the shadows of secrecy began to creep in. To ease the burden of parenting, the Thompsons had hired a nanny, Sarah, a young woman in her late 20s with a bright smile and a gentle manner. She was quickly welcomed into the family, and it seemed as if she became an essential part of their daily routine almost overnight. Sarah's warmth and kindness toward Lily were evident, and neighbors often saw her walking the little girl in the stroller, chatting amiably with Emily or Mark when they were home. Her presence brought a calm reassurance to the household, giving Emily the freedom to focus on her part-time work and social engagements, while Mark continued his demanding career. However, beneath the calm, a subtle tension was growing. Mark's absences began to stretch longer, and the few times he was home, there was a quiet distance in his eyes that Emily found unsettling, but chose to ignore. Emily trusted Mark completely, believing their marriage was strong enough to weather the pressures of life. Sarah, though, noticed things Emily didn't, small moments of tension between Mark and Emily that seemed to go unnoticed. She saw how Mark's glance sometimes lingered too long on his phone, how he would step out of rooms abruptly when Emily entered. Sarah kept these observations to herself, unsure if they were merely misunderstandings or signs of something more troubling. Mark's secret life was a careful balancing act. Late at night, when the house was dark and quiet, he would send messages and make calls that Emily never knew about. His affair was with a woman from work, a colleague who was everything Emily was not. Younger, exciting, and seemingly more connected to the life Mark wanted outside the confines of his family. He believed he was being discreet, thinking that as long as he maintained his outward appearance, no one would suspect a thing. Meanwhile, Sarah's role became more complicated. She found herself caught in the middle of the house's unspoken tension. One evening, after putting Lily to bed, Sarah discovered a folder of documents hidden in Mark's study. Curiosity pushed her to peek inside. The papers revealed disturbing plans, financial moves that would cut Emily out of their joint assets, and a list of personal information that didn't add up. Something was terribly wrong. Sarah's worry for the family grew. She struggled with what to do, knowing that exposing Mark's secret could shatter lives, but also feeling an urgent need to protect Emily and Lily. In those moments, the seemingly perfect world of the Thompsons began to crack. The trusted husband, the devoted nanny, the unsuspecting wife, all caught in a web of lies and betrayal. As Sarah held the documents in her hands, she realized that nothing would ever be the same again. The story was only just beginning, and the shadows hiding behind closed doors were about to come alive. Mark's secret affair was more than just a hidden romance. It was a carefully concealed world that existed parallel to the life he shared with Emily and Lily. In the quiet hours when the house was asleep, Mark would exchange messages filled with promises and plans, trying to keep his two lives separate. The woman he was involved with wasn't just a fleeting distraction. She represented something different, something forbidden, that gave him a thrill he no longer found at home. Yet, he underestimated how quickly secrets could unravel. Sarah's growing unease deepened as she began noticing subtle signs of Mark's deception. His phone was always locked, his tone sharper when Emily was around, and there were unexplained late-night departures. More worrying were the small bruises Emily seemed to hide on her arms, her shoulders, signs that suggested something darker beneath the surface. Sarah saw Emily's forced smiles and tired eyes, and though Emily never spoke of trouble, Sarah's instincts told her something was very wrong. One afternoon, after a particularly stressful morning, Sarah found herself alone in the living room. She glanced at the clock and knew Mark would be home late again. That's when she decided to take a closer look at the study, the place where she had stumbled upon suspicious documents before. With a racing heart, she carefully sifted through Mark's files and emails on his computer. Her eyes widened as she uncovered a trail of lies, plans that involved not only his affair, but a deliberate attempt to manipulate Emily's finances, cutting her off completely. There were also hints of something more sinister, cryptic notes about making problems disappear. Sarah's discovery was chilling. It became clear that Mark's intentions were far from innocent. He was plotting to take full control of everything, including custody of Lily, and he saw Emily as an obstacle. Sarah struggled with fear and confusion, knowing the danger this secret held. She wanted to protect Emily, but feared that confronting Mark would put her in harm's way. Instead, she began quietly documenting everything, taking pictures and making notes in secret. Meanwhile, Emily remained unaware of the storm brewing beneath her nose. She was busy with her life, trusting the two people closest to her without suspicion. But cracks were forming. Mark's coldness grew, his excuses multiplied, and Emily's once strong sense of security started to crumble. Still, she clung to hope, believing the man she married wouldn't hurt her or their daughter. Sarah's protective instincts pushed her to consider telling Emily the truth. But she hesitated, fearing the fallout. What if Emily didn't believe her? What if Mark's dangerous side came after them both? The nanny found herself trapped in a silent battle between loyalty and fear. She even thought about going to the police, but worried they might dismiss her claims as hearsay without solid proof. The tension in the household grew unbearable. Late one night, Sarah received a threatening message on her phone. Anonymous, but clear in its warning, stay silent or face consequences. Panic gripped her, but she refused to back down. She resolved to gather enough evidence to protect Emily and Lily, even if it meant risking her own safety. As Mark's secrets began to unravel, the quiet suburban home was on the brink of collapse. Sarah knew that time was running out. The lines between protector and victim blurred, and the darkness lurking behind Mark's charming facade threatened to consume them all. What happened next would shock the community and change the lives of everyone involved forever. The day Sarah was found dead shocked the entire neighborhood. The police arrived quickly after a frantic call reporting a tragic accident in the Thompson backyard. Sarah had been discovered lying motionless near the garden fence, her head injured and her body limp. The initial investigation pointed to a fatal fall. Perhaps she had tripped over uneven ground or slipped while walking outside at night. To most, it was a heartbreaking accident, the loss of a kind young woman who had become a beloved part of the family and community. Emily was devastated, struggling to process the sudden loss of the nanny she trusted so deeply. Mark was stoic, expressing grief in measured tones, maintaining the image of the grieving husband. Friends and neighbors offered condolences, and many came forward to share stories of Sarah's warmth and dedication. But beneath the surface, whispers began to circulate. Some questioned how someone so careful and responsible could simply fall and die in such a way. There were rumors of strange noises heard the night of her death, shadows seen moving near the house, and the absence of Sarah's phone raised suspicions. The police started to re-examine the scene. Small details didn't add up. Sarah's wounds seemed inconsistent with a simple fall. There were bruises on her arms and scratches that suggested a struggle. The security cameras from nearby homes, while not directly showing the incident, captured a shadowy figure lurking near the Thompson house around the estimated time of Sarah's death. No one could identify the person, but the footage raised alarm bells. Emily's grief slowly mixed with growing unease. She couldn't shake the feeling that Sarah's death was connected to the tensions in her household. She began questioning Mark's behavior more closely, noticing his reluctance to answer certain questions and the growing distance in his eyes. Friends confided that they'd seen Mark acting strangely in the days before Sarah's death, angry phone calls, late-night meetings, and hurried departures. But Emily still hoped for an innocent explanation. The investigation stalled for weeks, leaving the family and neighbors in suspense. Police collected evidence, but without clear proof, they struggled to make progress. The missing phone was a critical piece of the puzzle, believed to contain messages that could reveal Sarah's state of mind or potential threats. The community grew restless, some fearing that justice would never come. Then, an anonymous tip arrived, shaking the case wide open. A neighbor who wished to remain unnamed came forward with information about a heated argument overheard between Mark and Sarah just days before her death. The neighbor described seeing Mark leave the house late at night, looking furious and disheveled. Police immediately focused their attention back on Mark, scrutinizing his alibis and examining his financial records. The new evidence revealed troubling details. Large sums of money had been transferred from Emily's accounts without her knowledge, and Mark's story about his whereabouts during the night of Sarah's death contained inconsistencies. Investigators began to suspect that Sarah's death was no accident, but a carefully planned act to silence her. Emily, torn between heartbreak and suspicion, started piecing together what Sarah had tried to protect her from. The trust she had placed in Mark shattered as the possibility of his involvement in Sarah's death grew stronger. The once peaceful home now felt like a prison filled with secrets, lies, and danger. With the community watching closely, the investigation took a dark turn. The truth behind Sarah's death was no longer just a tragic accident. It was a mystery wrapped in betrayal, fear, and murder. What had started as a perfect suburban life was unraveling fast, revealing a chilling reality that no one saw coming. The discovery of Sarah's phone buried beneath the garden shocked everyone involved in the case. Police officers carefully dug up the small device, its screen cracked, but still functional enough to reveal its hidden contents. What they found inside was more than just messages. It was a record of desperation, fear, and a courageous attempt to expose the truth before it was too late. The phone became the key to unlocking the dark secrets that Mark Thompson had tried so hard to hide. Sarah's messages were filled with detailed accounts of Mark's affair and his growing hostility toward Emily. She had documented everything she uncovered: the secret meetings, the hidden bank accounts, and the cold plans Mark was making to remove Emily from the picture. More chilling were the voice notes where Sarah described confrontations with Mark, moments when she pleaded for him to stop, fearing for her own safety and the well-being of the family. The recordings revealed Sarah's final days as a nightmare. She had tried repeatedly to warn Emily, but fear and confusion kept Emily from understanding the full extent of the danger. Sarah's notes spoke of threats, anonymous messages, and a mounting sense of being watched. She suspected Mark was monitoring her every move, using hidden cameras installed throughout the house to keep tabs on both Sarah and Emily. As police dug deeper, they found the hidden surveillance system. The footage from the cameras painted a grim picture. Mark's movements during the night of Sarah's death showed a series of suspicious actions. He was seen entering the garden multiple times, carrying objects that were never explained, and shutting off certain cameras at odd intervals. The timeline matched the moments leading to Sarah's fatal injury. Financial records also exposed Mark's true intentions. He had transferred large sums of money into accounts under different names, preparing to cut Emily off financially. It became clear that Mark's plan was to isolate Emily completely, to gain sole control over the family's assets and custody of Lily. The nanny's death was a horrifying step in that plan, intended to silence the one person who threatened to reveal his secrets. Emily, devastated by the truth, faced a heartbreaking reality. The man she had trusted, the father of her child, had betrayed her in the worst possible way. The home they had shared became a symbol of lies and danger. But with Sarah's evidence now in the hands of law enforcement, justice seemed within reach. Mark was arrested and charged with murder, conspiracy, and fraud. The community was stunned by the revelation, unable to reconcile the charming man they had known with the criminal he was accused of being. Neighbors who had once admired the Thompsons now watched the trial with a mixture of shock and sadness. Throughout the proceedings, more details emerged about Mark's manipulations and the lengths he went to maintain his double life. Testimonies revealed the pressure Sarah had endured and the courage it took to stand against Mark, even when she feared for her life. Emily, though broken, found strength in knowing that Sarah's bravery had not been in vain. The case became a powerful reminder of how appearances can deceive and how hidden dangers often lurk behind closed doors. Sarah's sacrifice uncovered a web of betrayal and greed, shining a light on a darkness that threatened to consume an innocent family. As the trial unfolded, the truth became undeniable, and Mark's fate was sealed by the overwhelming evidence. In the end, justice was served, but the scars remained. The story of the cheating husband, the dead nanny, and the shocking twist left a lasting impact, a chilling tale of trust shattered and a family forever changed. The courtroom was tense as the trial unfolded, with every detail of Mark's deceit and cruelty brought to light. Evidence from Sarah A.'s phone and the hidden cameras painted a disturbing picture of a man who had meticulously planned not only to betray his wife but to silence anyone who stood in his way. Prosecutors presented a strong case, showing how Mark A.'s greed and desire for control had driven him to the unthinkable, murdering the very person who had tried to protect his family.